across our state campuses, our CUNY campuses, our state university campuses. I'm speaking to hotel owners about taking over their hotels to put patients in. I will turn this state upside down to get the number of beds we need. But we need the staff for those beds. We're calling and contacting all retirees in the healthcare field, all professionals in the healthcare field, whether or not they work in a hospital. They can work in an insurance company, a clinic. We want to enlist as many staff as we can and as many backup staff, because healthcare workers will get sick. Going to go on for weeks. You can't ask a person to work for 14 days consecutive.
You want a pat on the back for sending 400 ventilators? What are we going to do for 400?
They have to get that care themselves. We're there to help them. If they don't have, like with Governor Cuomo, he had a chance to order 16,000 ventilators 2 years ago, and he turned it down. He turned down the chance. Now, he can't be blaming us, but we're there to help them.
400 ventilators when we need
help them.
30,000 ventilators. You're missing the magnitude of the problem, and the problem is defined by the magnitude.
We're there to help them.
Federal and state officials are also monitoring spikes in cases across the country.
They have to get that care themselves. We're there to help them.
New Orleans is seeing a rapid rise of infections. Indeed, according to the governor...
We gotta start asking the question. Hey, do you know how to read a graph?
Help them.
Explain what anecdotal research...
You said this week
help them.
That you differed from the president in his assessment that a combination of two drugs,
research and appropriate
hydrochloroquine and azithromycin combined, could have the outcome that he described to the public they possibly could.
What evidence are you using?
Who is the president listening to? And do you see a concern here that those drugs could become, basically oversubscribed, and there could be a shortage that could impact people who have persistent medical issues like lupus and need those?
I hear two questions here, and he answered.
Okay, so Margaret, there's an issue here of where we're coming from. The president has heard, as we all have heard, what I call anecdotal reports that certain drugs work. So what he was trying to do and express was the hope that if they might work, let's try and push their usage. I, on the other side, have said, I'm not disagreeing. Anecdotally, they might work, but my job is to prove definitively from a scientific standpoint that they do work. So I was taking a purely medical scientific standpoint, and the president was trying to bring hope to the people. Mm-hmm. I think there's this issue of trying to separate the two of us. There isn't fundamentally a difference there. He's coming from it from a hope layperson standpoint. Okay. I'm coming from it from a scientific standpoint.
And we wish you the best. Thank you very much, Doctor.
Did you hear it? Did he actually answer the question?
Sorry, but Fauci, you did not answer the question.
Oh, wait, he actually did. It's the non-answer that answers the questions in these cases. Because we're trying to understand. We're scratching our heads. What's up with this behavior? Why would a president do this? I don't get it. Can you help us show the psychology? You're up there face to face asking the questions, so ask the right questions. Not did you eliminate a task force, because he's gonna, send it to another person and then make you seem like you're, disrespectful. I've got my ex-husband's cat because he was abusive to the cat, and I've not even begun to talk about what he did to me. So let's keep moving forward. The question was, are people going to suffer because their drugs that are typically meant for them are being used in this experimental sense? How does drug manufacturing work exactly? Can they just produce more if the need is necessary? You mentioned these anecdotals that everyone knows. Well, I don't know them. What are the anecdotals? What are the anecdotals exactly? And if he's trying to create hope for people, why won't he practice social distancing? Girl, you gotta listen.
He's saying these sound bites so that Fox News and whatever news station wants to repeat it, puts that on the airways nonstop. He said it. Stop giving him a pep rally, which is a change.org petition I started 4 days ago. But I'm not a good writer. Sorry, I don't want to get made fun of. It's difficult to explain what I'm trying to say, but I'll keep working on it, and maybe that's the first, hey, don't forget your writing and don't forget your idea. Don't let your ideas go. We have good ones. And that's why I would tell my kids you have a good brain, you little fuck. But your behavior sucks right now, but I understand it. But the other people aren't going to. Peers and your classroom teacher. So we're going to teach you, I'm going to teach you how to behave so that you can have a little more time and a little more empathy. And it sucks, but once you get through this school thing, I promise you'll be able to go anywhere in the world as long as you don't hurt people, okay? I'm gonna help you. I work with primary kids, K, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th graders. So I get them real young, and as soon as you realize the best and most effective way to teach these kids in this community is to give them a concept of self-worth. I had a question, well, where did my self-worth come from? And that's the difference. You have gratitude every day, and you recognize your role as a citizen is to take care of the most at risk and need. Thank you.
Or around-the-clock shift. So we'll need a backup reserve staff and equipment, masks, PPEs, and ventilators. And of those three, the greatest critical need are ventilators. Say ventilators, nobody really knows what you're talking about. The people who are going to come in, people who will have acute needs. The ventilator will make the difference between life and death, literally. This is a piece of equipment, and our hospital system has about 3,000 or 4,000. We have been working around the clock, scouring the globe. We've procured about 7,000 ventilators. We need, at a minimum, an additional 30,000.
16,000 ventilators 2 years ago, and he turned it down. He turned down the chance. Now, he can't be blaming us, but we're there to help them.
What happens to New York is going to wind up happening to California and Washington State and Illinois. It's just a matter of time. We're just getting there first. So this is a critical and desperate need. Deal with the issue here. Deploy the resources for our apex. And then after the apex passes here, once we're past that critical point, deploy the ventilators to the other parts of the country where they are needed. So far as to trying an experimental...
was trying to bring hope to the people. Hope, layperson standpoint.
Okay.
I'm coming from a scientific standpoint.
It's difficult to perform. It's experimental. But at this point, we have no alternative. So I'm not asking for 20,000 ventilators and they stay in New York and they live in New York and change their residence. I will take personal responsibility for transporting the 20,000 ventilators anywhere in this country. Don't leave them sitting in a stockpile and say, well, we're going to wait to see how we allocate them across the country. That's not how this works. They're not simultaneous apexes. We're working on this. 2 people in beds, 1 ventilator between the 2 of them. Necessity is the mother of invention, and we are working on this as we speak, because life is options and we don't have any other options. There is no other way for us to get these ventilators. The only way we can obtain these ventilators is from the federal government. Period. And there's 2 ways the federal government can do it. One is to use the Federal Defense Production Act, where the federal government can say to manufacturers, you must produce this product. I understand the federal government's point that many companies have come forward and said, we want to help.
I want to thank some people who have done a lot of great work. We've asked for the contractors and constructors to go through their materials and be given, donated to the hospitals and others, and they have come forward in a remarkable fashion. And these include Sloan Construction Company, Lineberger Construction, PCL Constructors, Hood Construction, D.R. Horton, Professional Building Supply, Builders First Source, and I know there are others that are coming in as well, and we appreciate that very much. That is the South Carolina spirit that is so alive and well. It's neighbors helping neighbors. Here's some facts. According to the South Carolina Medical Association, South Carolina Hospital Association, you recall we asked to move those people out, put off elective surgery. It's not urgent to go ahead and put that off, to leave the beds available for those who may be coming in as a result of the virus. Today, there are 56% more vacant hospital beds today than were when I asked the hospital to suspend those elective procedures last Tuesday afternoon. What that means is that there are 1,890.
Also, we have to be smarter about the way this is being done.
Trump is considering easing restrictions in the U.S. as early as next week. So this, as the number of confirmed COVID-19 cases grew to, and mayors and governors across the country are still pleading for help. Well, Hunter tells us the U.S. president...
You're in a pickle, dude.
really wants Americans
we get over
easing
that
restrictions
curve.
in the
That
U.S.
curve starts
as
to come
early
down.
as
We get to a level where we can handle it. I'll send our professionals who dealt with it and who know all around the country. And that's how this should be done. You know it's going to be on a different calendar.
Really wants Americans to get back to work.
Oh, we do too. We don't want to die.
Donald Trump today suggested he may be about to rescind those guidelines.
The likelihood that you're going to find a provider who can take that risk on,
I think this is the part that we really need to take personal responsibility for. Saturday, I had a little low-grade fever. I ended up piggy bank. I'm from Walter Reed, so I got a test late Saturday night and I'm negative. I stayed home another day these are the kinds of things that we have to do for one another.
So access to mental health, the reimbursement for mental health, the resources for mental health, community mental health centers, etc., have always been short-shrift. Ironically, I think we are waiting for the P in PTSD. We want this to be post-traumatic stress disorder. But we don't know when that date is going to happen. We may have flattened the curve on the physical virus, but the implications of this in terms of mental health I see going on here.
People don't care. People are dying. They're talking about their lives and they're check from the government, and as long as more people die in
20,000 fewer beds than it may need in order to cope with the effects of this crisis. The announcement came less than an hour after officials in Los Angeles County ordered the closure of all indoor shopping malls and non-essential retail outlets. Gavin Newsom has estimated that more than half of the residents of California could contract the coronavirus over the course of the next 8 weeks.
Staying in the United States, 2 senators, Republican senators, are facing calls to resign over allegations they used insider knowledge to sell off shares tumbled due to fears.
Like going back to those alarming images we're seeing, triage tents set up in Seattle, calls for the Army Corps of Engineers to help build emergency hospitals. Is our nation fully prepared to take care of the sick?
Well, one of the things that we've been doing is making sure that the healthcare system is prepared. And that's why the president's emergency declaration that he made last week was so critical for our healthcare system. It gives them a lot more flexibility on the front lines in the hospitals, getting rid of rules and regulations that stand in the way of doctors being able to treat their patients.
Today, President Trump was optimistic that we have enough rest, but Governor Cuomo of New York,
she's a terrible person.
5,000 ventilators, and that the state would require more like 30,000. Are you confident that the healthcare professionals will have the equipment they need?
Well, there's efforts going on across the board to increase the supply of ventilators. We heard from the Department of Defense yesterday that they're donating their respirator, asking the entire medical system to suspend elective surgeries and medical procedures. And this is
They're not confident. You didn't answer the question.
That we have all across America. They actually have ventilators. We have all across America. They actually have ventilators. We have all across America. They actually have ventilators. We have all across America. They actually have ventilators.
The day before, I said that a school is like a mini society. And now we're going to try and think of the home as a mini society and how you raise your kids.
The reason I've always said to New Yorkers is because this is not a major issue for 95, 96, 97, 98% of the population. Vulnerable it's only those. Well, if we're only talking about 1 or 2% of the population. This conversation about the economy, they're old, they're vulnerable, they're going to die anyway, and they're old, and they're vulnerable, and they're sick anyway. Why stop the train for the 1 or 2%? Well, then why stop the economy? How much are we paying for this 1 or 2%?
The best estimate right now of the mortality rate here in the United States is 0.7 or 0.8%, as in less than 1%. Now, every life matters, and you don't want to minimize any of them, but when the mortality rate is that low, what is the balance? What would be your advice to the president if, say, he's trying to make this decision this coming weekend ahead of the expiration of the 15 days to slow the spread?
So what I would tell the president is that, Mr. President, the mortality rate, that may sound like a low rate. In fact, it's about 5 or 6 times higher than influenza. And what's more, it's not just older individuals. We're seeing about, according to the Centers for Disease Control, we're seeing about a third of the patients who are hospitalized under the age of 40 or 44. And even though they're not necessarily dying, their lives are being saved because they're in ICUs being taken care of. And remember, now we're seeing a new epidemic coming on in New Orleans. virulent. So we don't really fully understand how this epidemic is going to play out. It's a brand new virus pathogen. Give it another month and reassess.
And
that
carefully
would be my
weigh
recommendation.
all of that. I've got 30 seconds, Doctor. In terms of mortality rates, you talk about we've got to learn from Italy, we've got to learn from South Korea, from China. We've been looking at all these places around the world. Germany right now, the mortality rate is 0.4%. And a lot of doctors are looking at that, trying to figure it out. My understanding is that a lot of young people at the beginning of the outbreak in Germany got it and showed very mild symptoms. What are we learning from Germany?
I think there's that, but I think also it's the fact that the Germans got on top of it very early and started testing early, and the hospitals were ready. Their hospitals were not going to get overwhelmed, because that's when the mortality rates go up. You look at the difference even, say, between Wuhan and China, it's because the hospitals got overwhelmed. They can't take care of the patients. A lot of the doctors are getting sick, and that makes the difference between 0.6%, say, what we saw in Korea, versus 3 or 4 or 5%. And it's all about making certain that hospitals can handle that surge. We haven't really shown that New York can do that yet, so let's hold on.
Pardon me, Doctor. We really appreciate your time. Dr. Peter Hotez has been a voice of calm throughout this. Appreciate you coming.
We're not willing to sacrifice that 1 or 2%. We're not willing to do that. That is not who we are. It's not what we are. It's not what we believe. We are going to fight every way we can to save every life that we can. Because that's what I think it means to be an American. I know that's what it means to be a New Yorker. So I'm not going to leave any stone unturned until we can make sure everyone is protected. That's what I was trying to communicate by calling it Matilda's Law, right? I wanted to personalize it for people. That's what we're talking. Yes, it's only 1 or 2%. Don't worry, go live your life. It's only 1 or 2%. But the 1 or 2% is Matilda and Sally and James, Sarah, and your uncle and my uncle. They are precious. I'm not giving up. I am not giving up. Also, we have to be smarter about the way this is being done. The federal government has to prioritize.
So they become these adults that are thinking of others and true citizenship. I said the purpose of education was to make sure that anyone has a sense that they can become independent and successful. That means take care of themselves. That means go where they want to go safely. If going to make the word independent as a form of identifying kids that are beyond the frustrated and emerging stage, then you're gonna have to understand what that implies. When you use independence, you're implying that you're not dependent on anyone else. At level, able to do it themselves without any strategies, modifications, and support. And yet, let's not even get into it.